Tommy Salmons. This is year 0. I invited a longtime friend onto the podcast. I've known Mr. Keith Orsag for at least 15 years. We've always had disputes and agreements and enjoyable conversations, usually over a bottle of scotch. And I thought, with everybody seemingly so interested in what conservatives and Trump supporters are thinking about the election, it would be interesting to have Keith on. We always vibe pretty well off of each other and enjoy each other's company. So we talk a little about all kinds of things, whether it's COVID or the election or secession or Waco or Agorism. We just hit many different points. We both have a lot of respect for each other, and I think it'll come off in the podcast. So I hope y'all enjoy hearing from my buddy Keith Orsag. All right, brother. I'm here with Keith Orsag. Since this is your first time on the show, I want you to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, man. Tell them who you are and a little bit about your background and your ideological leanings, that type of thing.
Which ideology are we going to discuss?
We're not. No, I don't want to get into Nazism tonight.
Wait, so now I'm a Nazi?
Not yet.
That is fucked up, dude. All right, man. Navy vet, 47 years old, got a couple divorces, couple kids under my belt, worked offshore in the oil and gas industry until the Deepwater Horizon blew up. Lost a really good friend that day. Dealt with the Obama Democrat bullshit and shutting down the oil field. Have done a little bit of technical writing, and about a year and a half ago, I started up my own company and doing IT network installations and stuff like that. And not really
a Nazi. It was a joke. I'm not a leftist. He's not a Nazi.
And I'm neither conservative nor really Republican, or I'm not really, like you are, completely going to the, agorist anarchist, but I'm somewhere in the mix of all that, if that makes sense.
I do want to talk. I want to talk agorist with you because I think that's misunderstood by most people. But we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think that there's one party better than the other. I think they're all a bunch of lying pieces of shit, and I think the best thing we can do is hit the reset button and start all over. Especially after what's happened with this election and what's happening with the Kung flu. I'm sorry. COVID-19 pandemic, which, by the way, here's the thing I want to ask a lot of people who actually think about stuff. If the Kung flu, COVID-19, is so horribly bad and contagious and this, that, and the other, kind of to echo what Jeremy Elliott said, and it's such a bad thing, why do we still have homeless populations in Houston, LA, Chicago? They don't distance, they don't wash their ass, they don't have access to even basic hygiene or healthcare. Should they not have been, according to the mainstream media, the first ones wiped out?
Yeah.
And by extension, an anti-mask dude like me, I should have been gone in April or June. I'm still here. So how's that working out? Just a thought.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I didn't expect to talk COVID. We can talk COVID if you want. I've had like one podcast on the subject, so it wouldn't hurt for me to talk about it. I was reading a story yesterday about, you remember the Chaz in Seattle?
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently they never actually like completely got rid of the Chaz. They just roped it off and made it a homeless encampment,
and they've kind of just moved all the homeless people into that area, and they're all just staying there to stop the spread of COVID-19. So they're just funneling they're kind of pulling a Cuomo, except for like sending the COVID-19 patients to nursing homes. They're sending them into homeless encampments now.
Into Tent City.
Yeah.
But going back to my previous statement, shouldn't they be the next ones dead?
They should have been the first ones dead.
When there's that, you know, then you have all the ones that are left over from the Chaz Chop thing, which isn't it ironic that I'm gonna pick on the Democrat socialists here. They scream for open borders, they scream for no walls, and the first thing they do in Seattle is build a fucking wall and rope it off so people can't get in or out.
Yeah.
Does anyone else not see the irony of these assholes or what?
I heard a lot of people say that, you know, but beyond that, you have to think about the way that the state acts. Okay. So, my buddy, Pete Quinones, he made a great point, and he said, you know what, if the right were to make an autonomous zone, look no further than Waco, what would happen to you?
Exactly.
But the left does it, and the police just disappear.
Yeah. Well, they're not allowed to do their jobs.
They dumped what, 300 rounds from an AK-47s and AR-15s into some teenage kid's pickup truck because they thought the teenage kid was like Patriot Prayer or some Trump supporter.
Man, here's the thing. Talking about Koresh and Waco and what they did there, that was such a travesty to the Constitution. Those people just wanted to be left alone and exercise their constitutional and God-given right to freedom of religion. And
the right to bear arms.
Yeah, and the right, and of course the Second Amendment. But what happened is there was such a gross violation of those people's civil rights, and that was on the heels of Ruby Ridge. And there's been a few other incidences, you know, where the government's just completely overstepped what they're doing. And I think whether, you know, people listening to the podcast lean more towards you or they're kind of like me and kind of in the mix of all of it, the longer and longer we tolerate this shit, you know, the longer and longer we're going to lose. I was listening to riding around earlier, and I was listening to I think it was Limbaugh. It might have been Hannity. There was nothing else on the radio worth listening to. Caller called in and jumped the freaking host ass because he point blank said, "When is the right going to stand up and start fighting?" And the guy was absolutely right.
Mm.
He was absolutely correct in his assessment, because for too long, and I think this is probably prevalent among many Republicans, they're a lot just like me. They just want to be left alone. We're getting tired of being told what to do. We're getting tired of being told where we can go, you know, what weapon we can have, how many rounds we can have, how many magazines we can have. First off, it's none of your fucking business. And second off, leave me alone. That's what Chris and those guys wanted in Waco. That's what the guy wanted in Ruby Ridge. You know, that's really, people just want to be able to make their living, live their life the way they see fit, and be left the fuck alone. Government has gotten entirely too big, which I know you agree with that.
Yep.
Probably most of your listeners agree with that.
Yeah.
You and I have different ideas on how big government should be, but it's gotten entirely too big. And I'm afraid of, I'm a veteran dude, I don't fear much, but I'm really afraid of going forward. What's going to happen after January 20th? I think that it's at a tipping point, and all I can say is, you know, guns, cougar ants, and get ready to head for the hills, brother.
Well, what I was going to say a second ago is, what do you think pushed me so far into studying ideologies? The fecklessness of conservatism, the fecklessness of the Republican Party, the fecklessness of the Tea Party, the inability, the ineffectuality of these groups. I had no choice but to figure out, what can I do for myself? You know, because these people don't represent or fight for or justify anything. And Michael Malice had a great point the other day. And Michael Malice said, you know, the Democrat Party, when Obama brought in Obamacare, the ACA, he made it mandatory that if you didn't buy it, you were taxed, you were fined for not buying it. And what did the conservatives and the Republicans do? They just bitch, moan, and groan about the mandate. But you know what they could have done to counter it? They could have said, okay, you want to pass a medical mandate, a health insurance mandate. Well, the Constitution states that every person has a right to bear arms. We're going to pass a mandate. You have to buy a gun. If you don't buy a gun, we're going to tax you. We're going to fine you if you refuse to own a firearm.
I
See,
think there's
what he's saying is give them their medicine, give them back their medicine, quit fucking reacting, quit being reactionaries and just being on your heels all the time and reacting to everything they're doing, and start bringing the fight to them.
Well, it was like David Brown, my preacher years and years ago, told me when I was still a nice, faithful kid, and I was still married to the first wife, whom you were aware of. He told me, he said, Keith, you are a type AAA personality. He says, and one of your biggest faults, he says, is that you react rather than act. He says, and as soon as you learn to act rather than react, he said, you will regain control over your life. He says, and you will take the power away from those who are controlling you by your reactions. And I think that's probably true in a lot of senses, but kind of to dovetail back into what you were just saying, for so long, the alleged Democrat / Republican parties, especially the Republicans, have reacted to whatever was thrown at them.
Yeah.
And I've said this a lot, and I know you'll back me up on this. You know, people will get off into the saying, well, you know, right wing, left wing, right boot, left boot, red guys, blue guys. My question is, well, when you're laying on your back and there's a boot on your throat, choking the fucking life and the liberty out of you, does it matter that both boots are connected to the same set of hips, which is government?
Right.
And so many people overlook that. So many people have gotten wrapped up in this, red team versus blue team thing, Team America, world police thing. Nah, fuck that, man. I'm Team Keith. I want to make my money. I want to take care of my household, provide for my daughters, live my life, and just be left the fuck alone. And no one is leaving me alone. And that's forcing me to consider things that I had not previously in the past 20 years even remotely considered.
Yeah, no Fed posting, please.
Oh no. Oh no, you know me. For the longest time, and you and I talked about this years ago on my back porch when we were watching Mojo chase squirrels. We were talking about the Texas nationalist movement, what they were doing in their efforts towards secession. And I posted a video earlier this week after Lieutenant Colonel Allen West posted his little thing about secession. One, it was as much respect as I have for, the colonel. It was an absolutely stupid statement, because those people who would make that statement and mean it have not sincerely and seriously thought this thing through. Let's take, for example, Fort Hood. You're an Army guy. Fort Hood's a big freaking base, right?
Yep.
Okay. Let's just talk about just the hardware on that installation. Just the tanks, the armors, the Humvees, the weapons, the ammo, the hand grenades, just the hardware. What's going to happen hypothetically if Texas were to secede from the Union? Do you actually think that the Department of Defense of the United States is going to give us that fucking gear? Nope. They're going to want it back? Probably.
Yep.
The logistical nightmare of returning that gear is nuts. You'd have plenty of work, dude, because the wheels never stop turning for you.
There's plenty of us out here.
Yeah. But then that begs the question, what do you do then with the active duty guys? Do you give them a choice to return to the United States or stay in Texas? Well, if they stay in Texas, I'm going to automatically label them a turncoat. And if they turn once, they'll turn twice.
Yep. They'll do it. They'll do it with you. They'll do it to you.
Yeah. Then what are you going to do with the dependents? There's so many logistical questions that people just haven't thought through. How would we
deport them all? You deport them all.
Man, don't get me started on deportations, dude. just you know what? Everybody leave. Just leave your recipe books and your beer recipes behind, and we'll be okay. But there's so many just logistical concerns, and the ones that talk about secession. I'm gonna get off that here in a second, but I'm really wanting to drive this point home to a lot of people that might be wanting to jump in on this. What would you do when the U.S. Navy buttons up the entire Texas Gulf Coast? And they could do it really with one submarine and probably a Gator freighter. They could do it with an LHA, a helo carrier. They could absolutely button up the coast of Texas with about 4 ships. And there's nothing we could do about it because Texas has no Navy. We'd be blockaded. Then we'd choke on our oil, we'd choke on our export, and it would bring the world's 10th largest economy to a grinding halt. People haven't thought about this, and I think until the right leaders are in place that actually have a plan to put that in action and have done everything possible to remedy their grievances, I don't even think that word should be uttered.
Well,
So,
I've been a proponent for secession for as long as you've known me.
yeah, and you and I have talked about this very subject. That's kind of why I brought it back.
Yeah, no, and we've absolutely disagreed on this subject many times, and we're still friends. What do you know? We can have disagreements and still be friends.
That's what grown-ups do. Grown-ups can
Not all of them. I'm getting to a point where I'm like, I can't be friends with you if you're fucking advocating for these mandatory vaccines and masks and shit like that. I don't know if I can be friends with you. You know, you got a tripling of suicide amongst adolescents in the United Kingdom. Like, who knows what the fuck's how this is affecting children? This is a fucking nightmare. And you're destroying mom and pop. You're destroying small businesses in favor of fucking big corporations.
I am a small business. I know.
Yeah, no, I know you know. I'm not saying you. I'm saying those fucking people. So I don't know if I can be friends with those fucking people anymore. You know what I'm saying?
But you and I have a history that's going back even before all this happened. You know, we were friends before. I mean, we were listening to Glenn Beck together. You know,
I still listen to Glenn Beck. I just disagree with him a lot more.
It goes back to that, and you and I having a lot of similar, a lot of short life experiences. You know, you and I being the two people that I hope don't do what we do. We're not your role models, except in this regard.
Like Charles Barkley, I'm not a role model.
I'm not a role model, man. But you and I can have discussions, and we can disagree, and we can cuss each other out, not talk for a week or two, and when we do talk, we're right where we're at right now. We never missed a lick, you know, and that's one of the awesome things that I've cherished about our friendship, that I enjoy about our friendship. We can disagree, and you're still my brother, you know.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten angry about any disagreements we've had. We've never disagreed in any kind of way that's been, over the top. We disagree. We disagree about a lot of things. We disagree about the war on drugs. We disagree about, secession. We disagree about a lot of shit. And we just talk about it. Like, you give your points, I give my points, and we're both like, stalemate. Like, what?
And let me clarify. I'm not totally opposed to secession, but it's got to be done decently and in order.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that necessarily. I'm just, what I think needs to start happening is I think it's going to be like, okay, so see, the way I look at it is it's a domino. It's a domino effect. When one state finally says, no, the 9th Amendment and the 10th Amendment mean something, and you don't have the fucking right anymore to tell us like how we're going to act. Like, all right, if you took a popular vote in Texas, whether I agree with this sentiment or not, if you took a popular vote in Texas, would most people be, pro-abortion or anti-abortion? They'd be anti-abortion.
Yeah, they'd definitely be pro-life.
Yeah. I just don't use those terms, but whatever. If you took a vote in Texas, would they be pro-gay marriage or anti-gay marriage? I don't know. It's possible.
I think you'd be evenly split on that one.
It's possible. It's very possible. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that the federal government has been able to dictate these social concerns into our lives, whether we like it or not, without our voice being heard, without us having any say in it. If you start, if Kyle Biederman's referendum actually goes the distance in the Texas legislature, and it comes up for vote next November for the citizens of Texas to start the processes of Texit, then okay, then the federal government has something to fucking think about, And that, I think that'll start other states saying, oh, we can balls up and actually do something too.
Do you think we'll see that in our lifetime?
The actual secession?
Yeah.
No. I think it's, well, okay. I don't think it's going to be secession like what you or I are talking about. I think what is going to end up happening is like with the Soviet Union. I think there is no doubt that the trending of left politics, the trending towards socialism and communism, towards the Marxist left, is going to create a catastrophic economic disaster in our lifetimes, and it's going to create a balkanization that nobody can help, that nothing can be done about.
I have a tendency to agree with that. But then what's going to happen too is you're going to have the statists and the Marxists getting into it. That might hold it up for a few years. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of guys on the red side that they can call themselves what they will, but at the end of the day, they're statists.
They're socialists. They're socialists. There's a lot of socialists on the red side.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm Team Keith, man. I've just kind of gone the way of Hank Williams Jr. A country boy can't survive, and just leave me alone, man. Get off my property and get the fuck out of my life. Get the fuck out of my marriage. Get the fuck out of my bedroom. Get out of my alcohol consumption. Get out of the plants that I grow. And it seems like. I know you're with me on this. The older and older that we get, the less and less I want to be fucked with, and the more and more I just want to be left alone.
Yeah.
I don't want to get involved in a whole lot. I don't want to become what the U.S. Navy had me become, and I don't think you want to become what, the 82nd had you become. Because if I have to go back to being that person, it's going to be a very bad day for a lot of fucking people. And the sad thing is, the more and more I talk to veterans, that sentiment is echoed through every freaking veteran I know, especially amongst combat vets.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. And talking about the whole Chaz thing and the whole, when they were pulling their shit and marching with their BLM, Rodney, well, no, not Rodney King. What was that dumbass's name?
George Floyd.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Say his name. Sorry, don't remember it. Don't really care. They were doing that shit in Austin and Dallas, and they did a little bit in Houston, and that kind of is what prompted me to work on something that I've got going on right now, and I'm still trying to put it together. And talking to a few friends of mine who are retired law enforcement.
This is an open invite. If what you're working on, you want to get out and you want to spread the word about it, you're welcome to come on the podcast. We'll talk about it.
Not yet. I had your attorney friend look at it. He looked over some documents I was creating a while back. Your guy up in Dallas.
Michael Harris?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just released an episode with him today.
Yeah, I saw that. I had him look over the mission statement, the code of conduct, everything that I'm putting together. And when it happens, I'll go ahead and throw it out there. I'm looking at what I've decided to do and what I found out during the George Floyd Forget My Name riots is what I found out from retired law enforcement and even active duty law enforcement in several jurisdictions. More times than not, they were told not to do anything other than stand there and look stupid. I'm a student enough of history to know that's exactly what happened to the Marine barracks in 1986 in Beirut, or 83. Those Marines were told to stand there and a truck bomb wiped them out.
Right.
I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but when you have a bunch of cops who are standing around,
it happened in Benghazi.
Yeah, and not allowed to do their job.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and now we got to deal with President-elect Biden, who stood by and watched two of my Navy brothers, a United States ambassador and a civilian employee, get fucking murdered, humiliated, and degraded, while they sat by and did nothing. So I'm not trusting that guy any further than I can throw him. But that led me to look at talking to some people that I know who are well versed in a number of different arenas that I'm not. I was given the task of exploring the Civil Defense Act of 1950. That document has served as top cover and as the outline of what I'm creating. And the intent of this thing is to create roughly a company strength force of, what is a company, 180 to 220 people.
Yeah.
So, 2 fire chiefs per squad, 3 squads per platoon, 3 platoons per company, and have each one of those platoons trained and cross-trained in various aspects of civil defense, being anything from riot shields to non-lethal munitions, to crowd control, to use of tear gas, not so much to help the cops out, but to step in and do the jobs when the cops won't.
Well, it helps the citizenry out.
Exactly. Not so much because there's no reason why, and you touched on this, a small business off of freaking, Bagby and Milam, like take Irma's Taqueria down there, it's been there forever.
Yeah.
I'm just not saying that it did happen, but there's no reason that business should be vandalized, looted, and burned to the ground because the cops and Mayor Turner, Lena Hidalgo, and that punk freaking gangbanging sheriff they've got over there, or police chief they've got over there in Houston, won't let his boys do their job. And that's where this company strength force would come into play. We're going to do the jobs that the cops won't. We're going to protect your shit. And if the cops don't like it, well, you can either stand in front of us, you can stand behind us, because you're not going to walk into our neighborhoods, into our homes, and into our towns and start tearing shit up. And I don't care what side of the fence you fall on, your moral compass should automatically tell you this isn't right. This should not be allowed to happen. And so that's kind of where that's at. And if people want to get a hold of it.
This goes back to what I've always been saying is the police departments, they need competition. If you look at Warren versus DC, or you look at what's the guy's name? Joe Lozito, that was damn near stabbed to death on the subway in New York, while the cops sat in the conductor's car and watched this serial killer stab this dude in the face and in the head 8 times, and the guy damn near lost his life while subduing this guy. You realize and you see the cops have no duty to protect or serve the people of the United States. Their jobs are to enforce laws, no matter what these edicts, what these laws are. That's what their job is. And this is why I keep bringing up, we need competition. We need competition in the market. We got to force these people's hands to act right. Just like the Postal Service was forced to act right when FedEx and UPS came about, we're going to have to force these people's hands either to act right, or we're going to have to get rid of them all together and only have private companies or volunteers like what you're talking about doing.
Right. And I wouldn't be out there trying to compete with law enforcement. That would never be my mission, because
ultimately that's what you're going to do. Ultimately, that's what happens. Because
the only time
calling you instead of law enforcement, because you're actually protecting them.
No, the only time that I'm going to deploy, that I'm going to have this force deployed, is in times where you have rioting and looting, like you saw during the Forget My Name's protest and all that shit. That's the only time we would deploy. I'm not going to try to do a cop job. I don't want to do a cop job. I don't have the temperament. I couldn't do that because
you don't have the heart. If some old black lady walks up to you and says, my neighborhood has been under turmoil for the last 10 years and nobody's doing anything about it, can you help me? You don't have the heart to turn her away.
No, by the same token though, I don't have the patience or the temperament. If I'm stopping someone from doing something illegal, burning a building, looting it, committing whatever act against public property or private property for that matter, somebody go, fuck you, you no good son of a bitch. I don't have the temperament to talk him down and whisper sweet placating words in his
Neither
ears
do the cops
about how he should act right. But the beautiful thing about me, I won't be restrained by the same guidelines they're restrained by. I can slap the living shit out of that little dickhead, put some act right in him, and he's got 2 choices: continue to get your ass whipped or go home.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with it, because I'm afraid, Tommy, that the days of half talk and half-hearted measures is long over.
Yeah.
We're so far past that now. And, going back to what we said, it's time to act or react. And I'm tired of reacting to everything that the left, or that for that matter, that the federal government does. It's time to act. is trying to remind these assholes, elected and otherwise, this is our place.
Right.
You're here to serve us.
Yeah.
You know, the shit, I don't know if you're paying attention to what Lena Hidalgo and Sylvester Turner are doing in Houston. They're trying to cancel fucking Christmas. You should have no more, a gathering of no more than the people in your immediate household. So great. That means if I were living in Harris County, it would be me, Jacqueline, and Bosco. That's all we could interact with during Christmas. What the fuck? Seriously? No, dude. No, not going to happen, Cap. Not on my watch.
Right.
I just get so sick of, you know, it's been exacerbated by this Kung flu bullshit, you know, telling me where I could go, what I could do, where I could eat, where I could drink. Man, I'm sorry. I'm old enough to remember when the Soviet Union / Russia were the bad guys. And I learned enough through history with those guys to see that system never works. Those guys were in my youth my mortal enemy, and they still are, regardless of what country they're operating in now. You know, what cloak or mantle they've taken up. Fucking communism is still my enemy and always will be my enemy. And I make no apologies for that. You know, and you have a lot of especially a lot of the young Democrats thinking, oh, it's a great thing. No, it's not, because you're young and you're stupid and you've not read. You don't understand what you're asking for. And the sad thing is you get the older people in the Democrat Party who are still under the false impression that today's Democratic Party, well, it's going to take us back to Camelot and Kennedy. Well, no, I'm sorry. Those people are dead, as is that methodology. It's just nuts, man.
Well, they were killed by the people that are running today's Democratic Party.
Then there's that. We're not even going to get into fucking body counts of Hillary. What's she up to now, dude?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't keep up with that.
I
don't keep up with the old hag.
Dude, she rivals Manson. She rivals Bundy. I mean, I think she's got a better kill death ratio than both those guys put together.
And she's gotten away with it.
And gotten smooth ass away with it. Allegedly. Allegedly. You know, it's insane. It's insane the amount of bullshit that the American citizenry just lets happen. I mean, apathy is absolutely choking this country to death right now. You know, well, it kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, it kind of goes back to what I think it was Ben Franklin, might have been Madison, that said, if it either picks my pockets or whatever, it doesn't affect or concern me. That's not necessarily true anymore, because they're trying to force this shit down all of our throats.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like, the federal government's gotten so big, it's involved in everybody's lives, you know, on the most individual basis. And that's what got me like started podcasting and writing political theory, because, you know, that was never my interest.
No.
I was always interested in talking about it, but I was never interested in getting out there and doing anything with it. I was writing fiction. I was writing horror, you know, like that's what I was doing. And so, like, whenever I
realized, that's beside the point.
Whenever I saw what was happening, and I was like, wait a second, like this is fucking bullshit. These people have no place in my life. They don't belong here. That's what got me running.
I heard one dumbass on the radio today. They called into whatever talk show I was listening to. And this person was strongly advocating for a national voter ID. And I looked over at Jacqueline, bless her heart. She has to listen to me rant sometimes. And I know she just wants to slap the shit out of me and tell me to shut up. But I looked over at her and I said, that's exactly what we need, isn't it, honey? I said, that's another department of the government to issue a fucking voter ID card after we already have photo IDs. If people would enforce the laws on the books, voter fraud and voter it wouldn't be an issue. You know, it's harder for me to check into a motel or a hotel when I'm on the road.
Yeah, they've been pushing this real ID idea for over a decade now.
Yeah, but
Mike Maharrey, my buddy Mike Maharrey has done a lot of writing on that with the 10th Amendment Center.
Dude, it was harder to me to check into the freaking Residence Inn in Bend, Oregon, because my boss had actually reserved the room, and I get there, show my ID, go figure that one out, and they wouldn't let me check in until they called him to verify that I was actually authorized to be in that room.
Jesus.
Well, wait a minute. You'll do that for a motel, but you won't do it at the ballot box. let me think about what the fuck is wrong with this picture. You know, and it's just it's ridiculous the amount of shit that we're putting up with. And I'm sorry, but my shit meter is about full.
Yeah,
You know?
well, I mean, if they really wanted to figure out how to run an election, they would get the people that set up the casinos to fucking set up the fucking machines.
No, I can. No,
Because
I can tell you now.
Vegas hasn't figured out how to do things correctly.
Yeah, because nobody ever wins. It would be complete anarchy.
Well, what's wrong with that?
The house always wins.
Well,
but
the
no,
house always wins now. I mean, look at what happened. You know?
Yeah, but here's the thing. I can tell you this after, getting in the IT field. We're so dependent on technology, and I'm telling you this for a fact. If it is a computer and it is online, whether it's wired or wireless, it can be hacked. Yep. Period. Dot. End.
Yep.
So tell you what, I hate to go back to, Bush Gore, Florida, the hanging Chads thing, but I'm okay with a hole puncher at the ballot box.
Yeah.
Or even do it like they did. I don't know if you remember how they did it in Afghan and Iraq when they first started letting those people vote again. What a clusterfuck that was. But what they would do is
purple stamp.
Yeah, no. What they would do is they would dip their thumb in purple paint.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
Kind of like they put in the freaking dye packs when you rob a bank.
Yeah.
So it took forever.
You walk out of the election booth and you blow up.
Yeah. Yeah, but your thumb is purple, and the shit stayed on you for like 3 weeks. So there was no way you're going to vote twice. I hate to say it. It sounds childish and remarkably stupid, but there's a little bit of logic in there, in at least the safeguarding. Let's find a way to where, we can actually do this to where these machines can't be hacked. I've been paying attention to what's been going on with these voting machines, and when vote counts start coming in measured increments of 12, 24, and 36, whether it's 12,000, 36,000, 24,000, 1,200, except 1,200, 3,600, 2,400, whatever, there's an issue there, and it's enough to be alarmed about.
Yeah. And there's an article I had posted earlier, and one of the things the guy said in the article was that Mexico, Iran, and Iraq can have fair elections, but the United States can't. Can you wrap your mind around that? Like, it's designed this way. It's designed this way.
Mexico does not allow at any point in time a mail-in or early voting ballot. It's not allowed.
Right.
You show up, you vote, and that's it. It's just and I know your thoughts on voting, man. You think voting's a farce, and I'm tending to agree with you, especially after this last cycle. It's time to hit the reset button on so many levels, man.
Well, I tell you what, if the referendum does hit the Texas legislature, I will be voting next November.
Well, I can tell you right now,
I will be a one-issue voter for sure.
Right. Hand Tommy a 36 freaking option ballot. He only punched one.
Yeah. Unless marijuana makes it on the ballot as well.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to do that, man.
Well, Mississippi did.
Yeah, but Mississippi, man, I got one of my oil field brothers in Hattiesburg. Matter of fact, Michael Damer is Vernon Damer's grandson. Vernon Damer was killed by the Klan during the civil rights movement in Hattiesburg because he was getting black people to vote, and he kept telling his people, if you don't vote, you don't count.
Yeah.
His grandson, Michael Damer, is a very good friend of mine. I love Mike to death. He's my oil field brother from another mother. And he might be the only right thinking person in that entire state. I mean, I've been to Mississippi. I've seen Mississippi, and I'm not saying that the gene pool is shallow, but I wouldn't even bother wearing floaties in that thing because you're never going to touch the bottom, dude. It's not. I'm pretty sure those people failed kindergarten because they couldn't scribble. But man. I'm not all that happy. I'm not completely sold on the state of Mississippi. I'll go up there, I'll hunt, I'll spend time with Mike, and I'll trade whiskey and everything else with him. But it's staggering to me that a citizenry as large as we have just in the state of Texas can't get their shit together. The citizens in Michigan and Georgia, Pennsylvania, Nevada, name your state, pick one. There's 50, 53 or 54 if you count the territories. And you can't get your shit right.
Yeah.
It's something simple as showing up and saying, I like this person. Remember back in like sixth grade when that chick handed you that note and it had, do you like
me? Yes or
yeah,
no?
check yes or no. It's that simple.
And
That's
you
what
wrote in the kids today, write IDK.
Yeah. I don't even know what the fuck that means. IDK, I drink Kool-Aid. I don't know. As long as it's not seltzer, drink away. Anyway, Bud Light's an abomination. But yeah, it really should be just that simple. And I don't know why we can't get it right. And it's just, man, it's mind-boggling what's going on right now. And then
I don't see any way of like getting around it's by design. I just don't. I just can't find any other way of looking at it.
Which is why I made the statement earlier. It's time to hit the reset button, blow the whole fucking thing up, and start over. And here's another thing too. I had a video appointment with the VA today about my lungs, and the topic of the Kung flu came up. And, my new VA assigned doctor at the Tomball Clinic is, asked me about the COVID vaccine. And I told her, I said, no. Well, okay, why would you not want to take this vaccine? You're overweight and you have a fungus in your lungs, which is probably from being in the Middle East. Why would you not want to take this thing? I said, ma'am, let me ask you a question. I said, name me one thing the U.S. government has not lied to us about in the last 230 some odd years.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me this virus is safe and tested? You people can't even figure out the fucking flu, and you want me to think you figured this out in 8 months?
Yeah.
Sorry, bro. You ain't putting that needle in my arm. And if you do, I better be strapped to a gurney in the freaking Walls unit in Huntsville. That's the only way it's going to happen. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any means, but on this one, I absolutely am. I'm not sold on this shit, man.
Well, we don't know anything about, mRNA vaccines are a brand new technology. We know nothing about it other than it changes your cells, dynamics and the way that your cells are made up. And then you got these people in Australia that get the vaccine and are testing positive for HIV. I'm not certain that I really want to inject something that's going to cause me to test positive for HIV. Does HIV mean something different than it did in the 90s?
Let's put this in the scales of common sense. Human acquired immunodeficiency virus or coronavirus with a 0.01% fatality rate. I'll take COVID for 5,000, Alex. This isn't a hard decision to make. And I'm curious.
Right. And it's not okay. And here's my thing. I have not personal experience, but I have family experience with COVID.
Yeah.
Let
My mom had it. Mackenzie had it.
Well, my dad. Well, let me give you this real quick. I hadn't talked about this on the podcast. I've talked to a couple of guys that listen to the podcast about this, but
right.
I haven't talked about it on the podcast. So let me get this out there. My dad
and actually, I know your dad, fucking great guy. I love your mom and dad to death, man. They're fantastic people.
Yeah, well, and I don't
know what happened to you, but they're fantastic people.
And I told him, I said, if anything happens, like if it gets bad, I'll talk to Keith about having Jacqueline like help you out or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever we need to do. But
yeah.
he did get over it. But he's diabetic.
Yep.
He smoked for 30 years.
Yep.
He tested positive for COVID-19. He never had a fever or a cough. He was vomiting and had diarrhea for 30 days or almost 30 days. It was something like 28 days. And
So dehydration was his biggest concern.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he slept for 15 hours a day. And my mom was terrified. She was like, there's something wrong. And you know, he was delirious, and she would make him go sit outside in the sunlight for 20 minutes every day, you know,
Yeah.
to get vitamin D and
Yep.
yada yada yada. Because I have friends that are in holistic health and this, that, and the other. So we're trying to like offer as much advice as we can in this. But there were if you get bronchitis, which is a respiratory disease,
which I've had.
you cough. If you
Yes.
get an upper respiratory infection, which affects your respiratory system, you cough. If you have pneumonia, you cough. My dad had COVID-19, a respiratory illness, never had a cough. All right. So something is not being told to us. There's something wrong with the information we are given.
Sir. Yes, sir, there is. Here's the thing with McKinsey. McKinsey came down with it right about the time that, remember the great big old Nigerian lady that went to the White House or went to the Capitol in DC with her awesome accents and told them all you need is a Z-Pack, vitamin C, some zinc, and
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
yeah. Well, McKinsey got it about the time that lady made that statement. I was saying within a few days of that. The doctor that she went to here in Tomball actually put her on that regimen. She had it for a week.
Yeah.
18-year-old, female, perfectly healthy, put her on that Z-Pack zinc, high vitamin C, and I think they gave her some tablet vitamin C, and they gave her an injection of vitamin C and some other little BS antibiotic. She was good in a week.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, there's stuff we're not being told. This vaccine has been rushed out way too soon. You can look throughout medical history and see the results of vaccines that weren't properly tested. There wasn't enough information. They weren't tested long enough, but yet everybody wants to cuss out big pharma and medical research. We haven't done enough of it on this thing, and I'm not convinced. Like I said previously, it's not going in my system. Fuck you, no way, no how. You're not sticking that needle in my arm.
Right.
And I'm big enough at 6'1" and over 300 pounds. You better have an army to stick that needle in my arm.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna fight. There's just not enough been done on it, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, and I think part of it, and here's why I'm kind of like fuck big pharma, is because I think it is big pharma's information telling them to tell the public, no, don't take hydroxychloroquine, no, don't take Z-Packs, no, vitamin C, vitamin D don't work. You got to take our vaccine. You need our vaccine. That's the only way to fight it. And so they've found a way to another cronyist invention to shove down our fucking throats, that we don't actually.
Kind of like the asshat a year back that bought the company that made the EpiPens, and he jacked the price up for EpiPens like 800% for a month.
Yeah.
Made millions, and then he took such a freaking beating publicly, and his stocks took a hammering. I think they finally brought the EpiPen down to a more manageable number. I don't want to say reasonable because none of it's reasonable.
Well,
but yeah,
and Trump did some good things on that. Was allowing shipments from other countries, and I've always said when it comes to any president, no matter which president it is, I'm gonna like give them, the proper, adulation whenever it's deserved. And Trump did a couple of good things when it came to big pharma in dealing with the pharmaceutical companies, allowing taking the barriers off of getting medicines from overseas, the generics, the manufacturing of generics, and this, that, and the other. So he did do some good things in lowering prices in that category. Yeah. He was actually effective there, which is one of the few places he was effective, but he was effective there.
Well, the other area that I have personal experience with that I know he was extremely effective at, he unfucked a lot of the VA bullshit. And he's now gotten it to the point to where if I'm unhappy or if the VA can't get me in a reasonable amount of time, I can just ask the VA physician, hey, can I go ahead and source this out to my, my primary private doctor and just have you guys pick up the tab, and they'll do it. If it's something like my sleep apnea test I've got coming up, if they don't have the room for me and they can't get me in there in enough time, I ask a question and Dr. Corey signs off on it. I can go to a sleep study lab here in Tomball and get it done, and the VA eats the price. They were going to eat the price no matter what. So that he did do. I did like that. I did like and here's what I think. Since we're on the Trump thing, they hate him because they can't control him, and they hate him because he's gone in and, being the businessman that he is, he's rehashed these trade deals that we were just getting screwed by our allies and our adversaries alike. And there's a lot of people that he cut into a lot of their pockets when he did that. And I think that's why, one of the reasons why they hate him so much. They can't control him. He's not one of them, and so I like anybody who pisses off Nancy Pelosi. I like,
That's fair.
Here's the thing. Remember back when he was doing that, it was right before the lockdown, or it might have been sometime last year, but when she shot something down of his or something, and she was supposed to take a jet to take off to another country.
Oh, and he turned that bus around?
And he turned the bus around because he sent her the note, because he grounded the freaking aircraft. He's commander in chief. It's a military aircraft. He can shut that shit down. He calls down, tells that poor captain that whatever plane it was, don't you move that fucking bird. The only answer that officer can give is, sir, yes, sir. Can you see this, though? They're sitting in the freaking White House, right? They're sitting in the Oval Office, Trump and about 6 of his buddies.
Dude, I bet he was laughing his ass off.
Dude, no, think about this. It'd be like me, you, and Ricky sitting in my living room, on Foxborough, writing a note to at 12 years old, writing a note to some chick. Hey, put this in there. No. What we'll do is this. Hey, no. And just laughing our asses off the whole time we were doing it. That had to have been what they were doing in the White House, in the Oval Office that day. This will piss her off so bad. We're not going to tell her until she gets on the bus.
And the bus drove around for I think it drove around for 30 minutes before it brought him back to the Senate or to the Congress and
to the Capitol building. Yeah. Dude, I guarantee you, there were a bunch of 12-year-olds in there.
You can see him on the fucking bus on the phone, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. And you see the Crypt Keeper, Pelosi, you could just tell how livid she was. That was just nuts. He grounded her aircraft, which was great.
Well, let's talk about agorism, okay? Or agorism.
Okay.
Depends on how you want to pronounce it. Okay. Here's a misunderstanding about agorism. Agorism is not an ideology. Agorism does not follow a specific set of ideologies.
Okay, I thought that was about horror movies, but go ahead.
Agorism is a strategy, right? So think about it this way. You grew up in small town Texas.
Born in Bay City, raised in Markham, Magnolia, and a few other small towns in between. But yeah.
Right.
I used to think, living in Markham, population was about, 500. That going into Bay City, 6 miles down the road, with a population of 20,000, that was going to the city.
Right.
And then I remember going to Houston when I was probably, 9 or 10, and thinking, good God,
Yeah.
So yeah, small town, rural Texas. Yeah, that's my background. That's where I'm from, man.
Yeah. All right. So you knew at least one shade tree mechanic in your life.
Oh shit, I was one. I've been one. My uncles and all of them have been one. That's how they made their money.
Okay, then they are, and you were an agorist. You're working in industry that is not illegal, but you were doing it under the radar. You were doing it off the books, right? It's all right. So in the agorist, in the agorist manifesto, you would call that the gray market. Okay. So
Okay.
you're not committing a crime as far as your action goes. The crime you're committing is dodging taxes. All right.
Oh
So
wow! Don't get me started on that bullshit. But yeah,
no. This is what Agorists believe. It's they call it a counter economic strategy. It's counter economic revolutionary action. All right. So you're talking about taking revolutionary action in a peaceful manner. So your agorist can be anything from your black market to your gray market. All right. So it's anybody who sells guns or drugs under
can
the
we call it a
table.
black market anymore? Is that allowed?
I've wondered that actually, but this is
You're
the
gonna
reason.
you're gonna you're gonna be getting a call from Zuckerberg here lately when you post this because he's gonna censor your podcast until you can't say black market anymore. Can we even say Black Lives Matter anymore? Can we even say Black Friday? This is just getting insane, man. Anyway, I'm sorry. Just a thought popped into my head. I'm random, you know that.
So
Butterfly.
there's the Agorist flag is a gray and black flag. Okay, so what it stands for is the gray and black market. All right, so the gray market is anything that you could do above board on the books, but you decide to do it for cash money or off board, whether you're bartering or you're getting paid in Bitcoin or you're getting paid cash under the table or whatever. That's all agorist action. Okay.
Right.
So, and the black market, selling drugs, selling guns, whatever you're doing under illegally, whatever you're selling is also agorist action. So, an agorist is somebody who is taking a specific strategy, whether that is growing their own food to choke off the big companies like Monsanto or whatever they're called.
Yeah, that's them.
Yeah,
Uh,
Beatrice hates them. I got to listen to her like
yeah.
rail
Then
on
you got
them. If
you
you're
got Monsanto and you got ADM, Archer Daniels Midland, who own probably 85% of the farmland in middle America.
right, so what you're doing is those are companies that are propped up and given special privilege by the federal government. You are undercutting the federal government by doing it on your own. So that is an agorist action. You see what I'm
Well,
saying?
wait a minute. But yeah, and by your definition, the only thing I've got to say is,
Well,
isn't
this
that what
isn't
this
my
country?
definition. This
Well,
is the
it's it's
definition that is put
it's the
out
most
by the person who came up with this idea.
it's the most thorough and complete definition I've had yet explained to me. Therefore, it's your definition.
Okay.
Here's the thing, talking about beating the government out of taxes, man, isn't that what this freaking country was founded on?
Exactly.
We didn't want to pay King fucking George tax money, dude. We took I don't know how many tons of fucking tea, threw it into Boston Harbor, over a 3% fucking increase in tea.
Right.
My income taxes now, when you add up all the taxes that I pay, man, I'm over 52% of my gross is gone before I even see it.
Yep.
For the taxes that I pay. And I've often thought about this in those times when I'm driving by myself. Why haven't we burnt this motherfucker down and got back to what's right?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about that. Over half of my income is gone in taxes in some shape, form, or fashion. There is nothing that we do that is not taxed. We no longer live in a free country. You and I have talked about this before. Why should I pay for a hunting license to bust some white-tailed deer's ass when he comes on my property? I shouldn't have to pay for that license. I shouldn't have to pay for a license to fish.
Yeah, but it keeps the poor dependent on the government because they can't afford the license.
Oh, here we're going with the plantation thing, right? Like Candace Owens got off the plantation. That was a great move by her.
I hate that chick.
Do you?
I cannot stand her. She annoys
Why?
the shit out of me.
Why is that? Tell me. Talk to me about this. I'm kind of a fan because what she does that I like is she looks the Black America in the face and she tells them exactly what is wrong with them and that they're she's called them professional victims. She's called them, and she's called them out. You're still living on the Democrat plantation. Get off of it. And you take it a step further. We're all kind of still on the freaking federal plantation. We need to get off that.
Yeah.
You know,
And I had actually made this post a while back, and I don't know if you saw it. It was months ago, but I said Abraham Lincoln ended private slavery in favor of public slavery.
well, and LBJ, exacerbated that. Um, I just, man, um, this whole tax thing, man, I'm just fed up, and I don't see the point in giving my money or the government's money to any entity or organization that hates me. And
Right.
I don't give a shit if you're Democrat, Republican, whatever you are, independent, agorist, total, complete anarchist, whatever. Um, there's no point in the people that represent me taking my money and giving it to you.
Right.
Get out of my pockets, man.
Yeah.
I've had enough.
This is actually like talking agorism. This is something I've actually really put a lot of thought into over the last couple of months. It doesn't matter what your ideology is, you can be an agorist.
Dude, do you realize to have my company with just, Jacqueline and I, do you have any idea what the number is of taxes that I'm responsible for the federal government without hiring a single employee?
No, I have no idea.
I'm on the hook for $19,000 a year.
Yeah. Is that just to have your license, or
that's just the taxes?
And then you have then you have licensing.
Well, right now we're operating under DBA, which was $12, but
okay.
Then you figure I've got to carry, my general liability insurance, that gets taxed. And I got, my travel, which gets taxed. Then I've got my motel rooms, which get taxed, my tools I have to buy, which get taxed. It's just, you add up all, if a person was actually sit down, and I've done this, and add up the tax rates for everything that we buy and look at that and realize how much money they're giving, or I don't even want to say giving, how much money is being stolen from them by the federal government and funding programs that they morally don't agree with, and they're not pissed off, that I submit for, the listener's humble consideration. There's something fucking wrong with you, man. I'm not a fan of anyone stealing my money, regardless of what the entity is, and that's what it is. You've said it before, taxation is theft. Do I think there needs to be some form of taxation to fund some portions of government? Absolutely. Do I think that it needs to be, 52% of my gross? Absolutely fucking not. Because right here in the city of Houston and, in the surrounding areas, and this, there are guys that are subcontractors in the building trades that are not doing the things I'm doing to be legitimate. They're doing it in a true agorist fashion, under the table, cash money. They're not paying shit, and they're getting away with it. They're running around little white vans, and they've taken over the job sites. The people I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We ran into them at Bison constantly.
Yep.
It's just, and it pisses me off that I'm having to do all this just to stay legit. And I've even caught myself a few times. Why am I even doing that? Why do I care? But, I need to stay on the up and up, because the last thing I want is the IRS coming beating on my door and auditing my ass, because me, I'm going to tell them, get the fuck off my property, and they'll be escorted off at gunpoint. I don't have the patience or the time to deal with them. So I just go ahead. And unfortunately, I submit. I have to do that to stay legitimate. And I'm tired of all of it. And I think, I would hope a lot of Americans, man, we got to get a bunch of people pissed off. And we got to get a bunch of people that are acting right. And when I say right, standing up for what they believe in and stopping this out of control federal government. We've got the out of control government in Austin. Greg Abbott, somebody just put a stick between the spokes on his wheelchair, because he's rolling way too fast for some of the shit that he was doing during the pandemic.
Yeah.
A lot of that needs to be curtailed.
Oh, nothing was creepier than the fucking than the checkpoints between Louisiana and Texas. I was like, this just proves if they really wanted to enforce the border between Mexico and the United States, they could.
Do you have peppers? We can see your peppers, please, comrade. Wait, what? No.
The only vehicles allowed to pass the checkpoint between Louisiana and Texas during this period. It was like a 1 or 2 month period, and the only vehicles allowed to pass without being checked were 18-wheelers. That's
Well,
it. Every other car was getting waved down and stopped and checked and looked at, and they were taking their temperature. They were asking if they've been exposed to COVID. Like, if like, I'm telling you, if they really cared about the Mexican American border, they could do that and it would be effective.
dude, I'm just, while you were talking, I heard about 30% of what you said because I was laughing my ass off. You remember Hogan's Heroes when we were kids, the TV show?
Yes.
Okay, I'm thinking of a guy dressed like that, but instead of a corny German accent, he's asking for your papers in full up coon ass accent. Say, bruh, you got the papers on you, yeah? Oh no, bro, we got to check your temperature, yeah. Boy, you hotter than a crawfish. You got to go back to Texas, bruh, for true. I mean, what was going through my head? And listen, man, I've spent so much time in South Louisiana. Anybody listening, man, I love the Cajun people. And I say that exactly as I meant it. The people in Opelousas, and they're actually true Cajuns. They are some of the most awesome people on the planet because of their duality. If they love you, and if they like you, there is nothing on this planet that they will not do for you.
Yeah.
They will give you the shirt off their back, the last $3 in their wallet, the food out of their house, and probably their daughter. If they don't like you, you better have your ass out of the parish by sunset, because if all the problems that were solved in the swamps of South Louisiana, south of I-10, stood up at one time, Acadiana would have a serious population problem. So anybody who might get offended by the freaking, me making fun of Cajuns, man, I love the coon ass people to death. They're phenomenal. I'm related to a few of them. I know Tommy is. So it's meant all in good fun, and no, we're not putting rice on hamburgers, no matter how hard you try.
Yeah, I got my family. I have family from Jennings, Brobridge, all down there. So I ain't no offense, man.
Yeah, so I mean, but you can hear that accent and the whole Colonel Klink freaking outfit. I can see that, dude. You got the Cajun Navy running freaking interference up and down the Sabine River, checking for papers, man. That's great.
They might be able to do more damage than the actual Navy in some cases.
Easy now, dude. I'm a Navy vet. Take it easy there, Army. Don't
I know
get
you are. That's why I said it. All right.
That's
we're just looks like we're just over an hour is what I'm seeing right now. So you have any final thoughts you really feel like need to be said?
Don't believe the bullshit, and I know a lot of your listeners don't, that the mainstream media is pumping out. I'm not going to.
Some people are. There are going to be some people that ask for this interview that are going to be disappointed that you are as red pilled as you are. And if you don't know what red pill means, anybody out there listening that doesn't know what red pill means, it means that what is presented to you is a carefully constructed narrative meant to keep very unpleasant people in power. That is Michael Malice's definition, and I stand by it.
Don't believe the bullshit the media is selling you. Don't believe anything the federal government tells you, because it's been proven historically that they've been liars from day one. I'm not going to ask people, in elections to vote red guy, blue guy, green guy, white guy, brown guy, yellow guy. I don't give a shit. What I would encourage the people to do, those who still vote your conscience. Because I believe that the vast majority of Americans still have a pretty strong moral compass. And I think that if the vast majority of voters will vote their conscience rather than their party or their political affiliation or whatever, I think it will make a difference. I'm putting some things together because I can no longer sit idly on the sidelines and watch the destruction of my nation. I once took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That oath has never expired. Some people agree with me, some people don't. You know what? That's the beauty of this country. You can disagree with me. That's fine. I can't watch it anymore. So please, man, when you go to vote, especially those of you in Georgia, you'll be voting in a couple of weeks. Vote your conscience. Look at each candidate, because there's so much at stake to what's going on there than what we're being told. Man, take the Kung flu. Don't take the Kung flu virus vaccine. I don't care. To each his own. You have a choice to make, and that's yours. You're going to tag me as a Republican? Go ahead, man. You want to sit down and talk to me? I'm on Facebook, not hard to find. Shoot me a message. I'll be glad to talk to you, and you'll find out we've got a lot more in common than what you think. I'm just a little slower to act than Mr. Tommy here. I like to think about things a little bit more. Give people a chance, because I still believe that, the vast majority of Americans are inherently good people. So that's it. That's all I got.
All right. Where you want people to be able to find you anywhere? Facebook,
Yeah,
Twitter, anywhere?
I'm not on Twitter because I get in too much trouble in Twitter.
Did you get kicked off?
Yeah, I got booted off of Twitter over saying that Lena Hidalgo looked like Dora the Explorer. I kept posting when the Kung Flu thing first came out. I kept posting every time Sylvester Turner, the mayor of Houston, would tweet something. After about 5 or 6 of his bullshit tweets, I started calling him Ike Turner and told him that Houston wasn't his bitch like Tina. He needed to quit beating on her. Those two right there got me kicked off of Twitter. I'm messing around with Parler a little bit. I'm not completely sold on that one yet. I'm toying with a few of them. But yeah, if you want, get a hold of Tommy. You can get a hold of me. I'm open to discuss whatever. I really don't have a problem talking to anybody about anything. So yeah, that's it, man. Like I said, vote your conscience, use your moral compass, and do what you think is best for you. That's it.
All right, brother. Well, I'm gonna hang up now. I gotta get to bed.
Yeah, me too, man. Hey, dude, let me know when you're back in town. We'll get together. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. You keep doing what you're doing, Tommy. You're doing good, brother. Hang on to that. Later, bud.
Late.
Okay, well, that was my interview with my longtime friend, Keith Orsag. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I'm Tommy Salmons.